Hello YouTube, welcome to my channel where I will be reviewing anime/manga content, more specifically in this case One Piece by the esteemed and acclaimed mangaka Eiichiro Oda, as the brilliance of dawn begin to unravel with each chapter that drops. And if you end up liking this kind of content, then be sure to absolutely United States to smash that subscribe button, the like button, and make sure to leave your thoughts, comments, and theories down below. I will be checking them out as much as I can. Real quick, spoiler warning for those who are not caught up. Now, we last left off from chapter 1022 with Zoro and Sanji finally taking the stage and intercepting King and Queen for their long-awaited extreme diff, hopefully extreme diff, battles. Some people say it could be 1v1, some people say it could be 2v2. Personally, me, I would prefer the 1v1 scenario, but either one could work. Now, moving on to chapter 1023 titled Spitting Image. When I first read the chapter, the title was actually Two Peas in a Pod, so I thought it was referring to Sanji and Zoro, but it is actually referring to somebody else, which we will cover down the video. Now, this week we have a cover page request by Ari where Vivi is singing up on a tree branch with sparrows as Karu is on the ground feeling left out and jealous, which is understandable, but in typical Oda fashion, he always makes sure to draw his female characters with more curves than Lombard Street. Like, I'm not complaining, I'm just, it's an observation, but I'm sure it helps push the sales. As for the actual chapter itself, it begins in the performance floor with Zoro and Sanji knocking King and Queen on their backs, but they get back up shortly after. They brush it off, no damage is done. Meanwhile, Kawamatsu and Higoro are basically there to filter out like the fodder from the floor, telling them, hey, you gotta stay away from this stage because you're not on their level. You do not want to be dancing with these devils right now. Next, we get a flashback of Marco and Whitebeard talking about people that used to live on top of the Red Line in the Land of the Gods way back in the past, long before marriage was stood there. At least that's what I got from the context of Whitebeard's like speech or his speech bubble. And so we're talking Void Century, or maybe even early, maybe even predating Zunisha, and we know Zunisha is at least 1,000 years old. In the following scene, Izo has to save Marco and carry him around like a football field because Marco ends up zoning out in the middle of the battlefield. So Izo has to carry him around like a football while the Glock Saint that he is putting like the Beast Pirates on t-shirt, like bam, 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 one by one. And Marco asks Izo, do you believe in gods? Which like gets Izo to ask Marco, when did you turn into Pops when he, when he became drunk, which was a really cool moment. It was a nice wholesome moment and gave us a little bit more insight on the Whitebeard pirates relationships as commanders and as crewmates. So the clash between Zoro and Sanji continue against the all-star commanders, and they both end up protecting each other from King and Queen after Sanji says his body feels weird after wearing the raid suit for the second time. And later on, Queen remembers that the Vinsmoke children are cyborgs, and asks Sanji if his legs are part machine due to him using Diable Jambe. Sanji denies it, saying, yeah, I'm all human, dude, I'm all human, which kind of elicits a rhetorical question from Queen, asking him, really, do human burn like that? Like, do human legs really burn like that? Because I know you ain't a Lunarian. There we go, Lunarian, a term we have not heard before, and a term that calls back to what Marco was saying earlier in this chapter and even the previous chapter where he talked about a race that lived on top of the Red Line. So it's a term we haven't heard before, and people believe that it's either the classification for King's race or the moon entities that NL encountered on volumes 44 and 49, the cover pages for those. A popular theory going around right now is that Sanji has dormant Lunarian DNA, which activated after he started wearing the raid suit. It's a callback to when he started saying his body felt weird. It didn't feel bad, he said, it felt weird. And people are saying this because King's race are known to be able to spontaneously combust into flames, which is how Sanji fuels his Diable Jambe technique. King and Zoro are going at it on their part of the floor, and King ends up disarming Zoro's sword due to his blade being able to change shape and developing these notches that grab onto Zoro's sword, yanking them out of his hands. And this provides an opening for King to throw a punch, saying, hey, like, why would you follow any style of martial arts at all, or swordsmanship? Zoro acknowledges that King never claimed to be a pure swordsman, implying that he thought it was going to be a pure sword duel between swordsmen, but also making it clear that he will do anything it takes to absolutely win the fight, including ripping King's throat out with his teeth. So people have agendas in One Piece where they try to push their favorite character like Zoro or Sanji over one another, with more recent feats that develop, Mihawk and Shanks. It's nothing new. And I saw some people trying to twist this exchange between Zoro and King to downplay Zoro and Mihawk, citing pure swordsmanship makes them weaker than other characters who can rely on more things than swordsmanship. You know, like they do not necessarily live by the blade, so they can use pure haki, they can use guns and stuff, which understandable. You know, there's some people who think Mihawk's stronger than Shanks. I personally think Shanks is stronger than Mihawk, but it gets toxic to a point where people just literally nitpick the smallest details that doesn't even have that pertain to the argument, and they kind of try to twist it to gain favor on their side. It's completely natural to compare characters, strength-wise, feat-wise, who's a better character, who's stronger than who, in series and manga and, you know, cartoons and stuff like that. But you shouldn't let it get to a toxic point, and it shouldn't matter that much, because at the end of the day, it's a manga. You know, it's not gonna affect your daily life if Shanks ends up being stronger than Mihawk, or Mihawk ends up being stronger than Shanks. So, you know, I don't get the seriousness and toxicity about it. Meanwhile, Kawamatsu and Hyogoro are just casually chatting in the distance, in the background, with more revelations. Like, at this point, we're halfway through the chapter, and the amount of lore that we've gotten has been off the charts. It could have been enough for, like, 2 separate chapters on its own. But y'all are forgetting, this is Oda. When he drops the hammer, he drops the hammer. And so, Kawamatsu tells Hyogoro there was a reason he didn't object to Zoro getting Enma. And Hyogoro is just sitting there like, yep, I get it. The man is a spitting image of the daimyo of Ringo, Shimotsuki Ushimaru. And literally their images, their visage are like literally the same. And they have the same sword style, so Ushimaru did 3 sword style as well. And then he adds on top of that, like, you know, Ryuma, who used to be a one-eyed swordsman, is the ancestor of Ushimaru. This is fate. This is like literally Dr. Fate kind of shit. Like it Oda decided to drop the hammer, and he decided to drop it this chapter, and the One Piece community is still trying to recover from it. Like, I'm still not ready for the next chapter, and it's gonna drop in like 2 days. Oh man, and it's not even everything. We still have stuff to cover in this chapter. Real quick, I want to emphasize the importance of Zoro and Sanji getting their backstories revealed this much, because we thought they were just like, you know, normal people pre-time skip. Some people theorized that Sanji was a prince, and that was like a far-out theory that eventually came true, but now we're finding out Zoro is a descendant of the sword god. Now, some people are also saying Usopp might be a descendant of Noland. Now, this is gonna come in later on in the video, so just keep that in the back of your minds, and we'll keep moving forward. Next up, we have Inuarashi and Nekomamushi, and they have turned back into their Sulong forms. We finally get to see Jack's hybrid form, and it's kind of okay. It's nothing mind-blowing. It wasn't really too hyped up by Oda or anybody else, so Jack's betrayals have been kind of meh throughout the series, you know? For a 28-year-old who has a 1 billion bounty, he's been on the bad receiving end of other people's hype moments, which is not the best portrayal for one of the All-Stars, but he is durable as hell. And honestly, at this point, switching to Perospero and Nekomamushi, I feel bad for Perospero because he is... The Minks have a vendetta against him over Pedro, and it wasn't even his fault. So I think like Nekomamushi washes Perospero unless he's hiding something that we haven't seen. But with Jack and Inuarashi, I think Inuarashi might actually lose to Jack. Towards the end, we get a sort of a prelude to the final reveal of the chapter, starring Raizo, the Hokage, and Fukurokuju having their ninja battle at the 2nd floor of the castle. They're having a heated discussion along with their battle, and Fukurokuju is still mocking and laughing at the 9 Scabbards for choosing to follow Momonosuke, who's an 8-year-old boy, since their master has passed on. Now Raizo fires back saying don't mock the youth because they have an infinite potential for growth, and that the scabbards once were nobodies too until Oda and their late master turned them into respectable samurai. This leads to Raizo also saying that they won't let Kaido or Orochi steal Wano from its rightful heir. To be honest, I'm liking Raizo's character more and more as we get deeper into Wano. As when we first met him in Zou, I didn't really think much of him, but he's proven his worth. You know, he's done damage to Kaido, he's fought on the rooftop, and now I can feel his passion in his battle against Fukurokuju, which is surprising because I didn't really think Raizo would have that much impact, or that I would like him this much. And so, the big reveal. Port Tokage Udon. The Polar Tank crew are literally sweating and extremely dehydrated. They are hyperventilating because now they think they have to fight the dragon right before their very own eyes. They are hearing the boss battle music and it's go time. Meanwhile, Luffy has a flashback of him meeting Momo for the very first time in Punk Hazard, I think, and he asks the dragon, "Is that you, Momo?" And Momo's like, "Yeah, si, patron." And then Shinobu is crying in the background because she says Momo looks like ... Now we can infer that she means Oden because, you know, Momo is his kid and he looks like a fucking Chad. He's got Oden's like build, but how funny would it be if Oda just copy and pasted Toki's face on Oden's body and that's how Momonosuke looks as an adult? It's like such an Oda thing to do, and honestly, I don't mind whichever way Oda goes, but it would be extremely funny. There's steel-like conviction. Luffy and Momo head towards Onigashima to face Kaido for what seems to be the final time, and that's the end of the chapter. Now, I just have to say real quick, Oda has been on fire since chapter 1. He's been on an arsony run since chapter 990. It's almost been a year since chapter 990 dropped, and from that chapter, it just kept getting progressively better and better and better, and Oda kept getting like more and more excitement and hype built up, and I don't know how he sustained it for a year, but it seems like we're gonna keep sustaining this hype train till pretty much the end of Wano, which is insane because this man has been doing this for 20 plus years, for longer than I've been alive, and to do it in a span of over 1,000 chapters where it's not just the new chapters you look forward to, but looking forward to reading and seeing the clues that he left, like, just clap for that man. Stand salute, get your dicks out, ladies and gentlemen, for Eiichiro Goda. And of course, this is also augmented by the anime experience, because I believe in Megumi Ishitani's supremacy due to episodes 957 and 982. And honestly, I can't wait to see more of her future work with Roof Piece, because it's gonna completely destroy the community in a good way, in the best way possible. We are absolutely gonna lose our minds, and I wholeheartedly believe that. So I just want to add one final thing to the video, where this is gonna be the section where I put theories and comments that I find interesting. They could be like far out tinfoil theories that don't make sense, but if I find them interesting, I'll put them in this section. This theory has been around for a bit, and it stems from like what I said earlier in the video, where Nami, Usopp, Zoro, and Sanji are like part of the original Straw Hats, right? And it turns out Sanji's the Prince of Germa, Zoro is a descendant of a sword god, Usopp is his dad's Yasop, one of the greatest pirates ever, and some people theorize that he might be related to Noland. Well, that leaves Nami. Nami might be getting an expansion to her backstory past the Bellemere backstory, where she ended up in a battlefield, where people are theorizing that she's a secret Big Mom child, or it might be like someone else that's like important. Like there's gonna be somebody important down Nami's lineage line that will make her lineage like be important towards the end, or towards, further on into the story. But what do you think of that theory? I didn't really get a chance to research and kind of see where that rabbit hole led, but for the next video I will do researches and theories that I see and see what other people say about it. Other than that, that is the end of another legendary chapter for One Piece. And if you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to subscribe, drop a like, and leave your thoughts, comments, theories down below. Remember to stay sexy, stay hydrated, and hockey up. Hockey up. And I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.